Hi, this is Alex Mahoney with Coda Financial Coaching. And today I want to talk about an article that I saw in the Wall Street Journal this past week titled, Do You Need a Financial Advisor? Ask yourself these four questions. So I just wanted to go through this article, and in my opinion, it actually shows more than anything how much the typical investor doesn't really actually need a financial advisor, or at least they don't need one on a permanent basis year after year managing their portfolio. It'd be much better to just work with a financial advisor on a one time basis or hire a financial coach that can really give you a more holistic view and is probably going to be less expensive than a financial advisor. But anyway, let's get into the article here. So, right off the bat, literally the first thing in the article is there has never been an easier time to be a do it yourself investor thanks to the host of technological aids such as financial calculators, budgeting and investing apps, and robo advisors. So, right off the bat, they come out with a perfectly factual statement that doing it yourself is easier than ever. And these apps, especially Monarch Money, really help you plan. And you don't really need to have a financial advisor if you get the basic education, which you can get from a financial coach, or if you prefer to use a CFP from them. It's all about teaching someone how to fish, right? Not fishing for them. So it goes on to say, but sometimes it may hire somebody to help. Big life events, for instance, may change your financial picture in a way that technology can't tackle. Milestones such as marriage, the birth of a child, or an impending retirement are often a reason to meet with a financial advisor since your money and tax situation may change. So, let me say a couple things about this. Things like getting married, having a child, or retiring, they we don't want to make it complicated. Really, they just change what you need to budget for, right? So that doesn't require any fancy changes in your portfolio, for example. If you're trying to target a if you're trying to save for retirement and you have a child, the goal of saving for retirement, maybe you need more money, you need more savings, but fundamentally, the types of investments that you're in really shouldn't change. So I would argue that really you only need a financial advisor if you are in a very complex financial situation, such as you are coming into a lot of money from an inheritance, or you own a company that you're withdrawing money from, you're taking dividends or distributions from, where there may be some complexity in dividing out what's coming from the company and what you need to spend personally and any tax consequences there. But I would argue, besides those things, it's really just a matter of expanding your budget and differentiating your budget based on those life events. The core investments that you should be in, depending on whether you need to save for a house or save more for retirement because you have a spouse or save for college because you have a kid. It's just a matter of budgeting more, but in the same type of investment, whether that is an index fund or a target date fund, which we've talked about before. You don't need a financial advisor to confuse you and to really muddle the issue when it's really just a matter of expanding your budget or changing the type of investment that you're in, which if you're educating yourself and you're making even a small effort to educate yourself, you should be able to make those decisions on your own. So again, it kind of goes on to say that this advice doesn't come cheap. A traditional fee equal to 1% of your managed assets means you're paying $5,000 a year on a $500,000 portfolio. So, like we've talked about before, guys, 1% takes a huge amount off your return in the long run. That compounding interest off of that 1% that you lose is giant. Why not take a few hours to educate yourself with either a financial coach or a financial advisor, once again, who's willing to teach you how to fish, not fish for you year after year, meaning meanwhile they're just raking in the fees and laughing their way all the way to the bank. So let's go on here to the first point, that the first question that this article says you need to ask yourself here. Am I where I need to be with my retirement savings? If the answer is no, and you're not sure how to get on track, then a financial advisor could be on order. A professional planner can look holistically at your contributions, asset allocation, and spending, and map out a good long-term strategy and calculate what annualized return you may need to make over time so you take an appropriate amount of risk. So once again, guys, this right here is just confusing the issue. Most people really just need an index fund or a good low fee target fund to meet either their retirement goals or their savings goals for things like education, a child's education, or a house. They don't need an advisor to confuse them with a bunch of different investments. Maybe they need an advisor to one time tell them the different education savings accounts and the different IRA accounts, but a smart financial coach can do that as well for a lesser fee there. So really, when we say that a professional planner can look holistically at your contributions, those tools that we talked about up here, those can do that as well. And if you learn how to use those tools with a financial coach, you don't need a financial advisor year after year doing that for you. So, another thing, taking advantage of a workplace retirement plan like a 401k and saving enough to receive matching contributions from an employer may not be sufficient to reach a long term savings goal like retirement. Okay, that may be true, but guys, it doesn't take that much to educate yourself how to also invest in an IRA. You don't need to have a financial advisor to teach you how to do that, or to do that for year after year. You just need a financial coach or a financial advisor who teaches you that on a one-time basis. So it goes on to say, in addition to looking at your personal contributions and spending, a financial advisor may also look at the impact of other investments on your total portfolio, such as company stock. Many people have too much of their employer stock in their portfolio, and a financial advisor may suggest a different savings and investment strategy to bolster long term growth while cutting risk. Once again, guys, diversification, that is something that any financial coach can teach you how to do. It's a concept that you can learn on your own, and you can include in your budget how much you want to invest in your company's stock plan, especially if it is generous. If you have a employee stock purchase plan that gives you a 15% discount, you do want to be pretty heavily invested in that, because they're giving you a 15% head start. As long as you believe in the company, there's really no problem in doing that, especially with something like a 15% discount. And typically the company is not going to give you the opportunity and to invest so much that it would completely break your budget. But in any case, learning to how to diversify, that's a one-time skill that you learn. It's not something that a financial advisor needs to teach you on an ongoing basis. All right, so moving on. Am I ready to retire? So while saving money isn't always easy, it is straightforward. You have years to accumulate wealth, and small mistakes made along the way won't necessarily wreck your chances of long-term success. However, when you get close to retirement, there are complicated questions that arise, and making mistakes can wreck your financial outlook. All right, guys. So you should know by the time you get to retirement how much you're going to spend in each year. And there are a bunch of YouTube videos and money advisor gurus that can show you basically how you should think about how to plan for retirement. Typically, at first you're spending a lot more money, right? And then as you get older, you're actually spending less. Maybe you're not quite ill yet. You're not so old that you're ill. Your medical bills are up, but you're just less active. And then you're spending a lot because you're basically at that end of life, and you're spending more. So I believe they call that it's called the smile curve, where you're spending a lot at first because you're an active retired person, then you're spending less because you're less active, then you're spending more again because you need more money for medical bills. So really, that isn't complicated to plan for. It's something that can be taught, and it's not something you should need to pay a financial advisor. Let's say you have a million to a couple million in savings. You've done well as a middle class saver. You shouldn't need to be paying $50,000 to $100,000 a year in fees for somebody to manage your portfolio just to tell you how to budget. Once again, it comes down to working with a financial coach or learning how to budget yourself. That's not something you need a financial advisor to be doing year after year. So I think this article really is making it sound more complicated than it should. Another thing I want to point out, Christina Benz, Director of Personal Finance and Retirement Planning for investment research company Morningstar, says one area where DIY investors often struggle is with portfolio drawdown strategies. Many people often rely on popular guidelines such as withdrawing 4% of your portfolio annually, but that isn't a plan, she says. Now, I would agree that that is not a plan to take the Bill Bengen classic advice here to take 4% and then adjust that for inflation each year, because the reality is, like I stated before, your spending in retirement is going to vary throughout retirement. But that doesn't mean, once again, that you can't plan out yourself how you're going to spend and also use tools to leave yourself a safe margin for error in case the markets don't do well as you're spending down your retirement. This is all things that can be done on a one-time basis. And if you need to touch up or have a refresh, 10 years into retirement with a financial advisor who will charge an hourly fee rather than charging a investment percentage of your portfolio, that's something you can do rather than letting them take, once again, that $50,000 to $100,000 in management fees from you. Especially if you're a wealthy advisor. I guess it'd be 1%. Would If they were taking 1%, it'd be something more like ten to $20,000, but that's still a lot of money, guys. So let's go down to the last part. Will I always be able to manage my investments? If you have a high level investment knowledge and dedicate time to research and manage your investments, you may not need a financial advisor initially. As investments become more complex, you'll need to answer yourself if you can continue to pay attention to the fees you're paying and the risks involved, Walsh says. So, once again, this is something you can have a plan in place and have estate planning and a lawyer write up how you want your investments to be managed and what you need to be invested in. I don't really know why you would need to hand over your portfolio to a financial advisor. This is something you could do within estate planning. And I don't think I covered it in this article either, but it did talk about tax planning as well. This is something you can do with your CPA if you're trying to decide how to do required minimum distributions after age 70 or whatever age. I think it's age 70, 70 and a half now, or otherwise manage your wealth. This is something you can plan with your CPA, who you're going to need to do your taxes anyway, especially if you're on the wealthier side. It's not something that really needs to be done with a financial advisor. Why would you pay both a financial advisor and a CPA? So, just to recap, guys, anything you do, I should start over. Unless you're a very wealthy investor who's investing in alternative investments, or who owns his or her own company and has complex ways that he or she's gonna withdraw money from that company, take distributions from that company, and manage that company's assets, and wants to avoid all any bad tax implications from that, and wants to manage that wealth appropriately. unless you're in that special situation, if you're just a investor that has a, very simple company or has employer income and you just want to be invested in either an index fund or a target fund that gets more conservative as you get towards retirement, you don't need a financial advisor to do that. Really, you just need to talk to a financial coach or a financial advisor who will, on a one-time basis, make a plan for you. And then you need a CPA to plan out the tax consequences. So that's all to say, unless you're in a very special situation, you do not need an ongoing financial advisor year after year. But anyway, that's all I have to say about whether you need a financial advisor or not. Feel free to drop any comments or questions in the comments below and have a great day.